Have you ever said something and immediately wished you could take it back? A comment that seemed harmless in the moment, but ended up making someone withdraw. Or worse, caused you to lose the trust it took months or years to build. We live in a world where words have never been cheaper, and social media rewards volume over value. Speaking more is mistaken for intelligence, arguing well for wisdom, and self-expression for strength. But brilliant people, they know when to stay quiet. They understand that words are tools, and tools, when misused, can hurt more than help. Stoic philosophy reminds us that speech isn't just a form of communication, it's a reflection of the self. It reveals how much control we have over our ego, how well we understand what truly matters. That's why there are certain things, even when thought, that a wise person never says. Not out of fear, but because they've outgrown the need to prove their worth through words. In this video, you won't just learn 6 things an intelligent person never says, you'll understand why silence, used wisely, is sometimes the strongest response of all. If you've ever wanted your words to carry more weight, it starts with self-awareness, and that journey starts now. 1. Don't boast about what you know. There's a kind of intelligence that disappears the moment you try to prove it. You've probably been in a conversation with someone who just wouldn't stop talking about what they know. The books they've read, the things they've built, the ideas they've mastered. At first, it might be impressive, but slowly, something shifts. You stop listening and start counting the minutes until it's over. Here's the thing, they're not wrong. What they're saying might be true, useful even. But what pushes you away isn't the content, it's the intent. In Stoic philosophy, Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nature does not boast about what it creates, neither should we." The tree doesn't announce it's growing. The sun doesn't declare it's shining. And knowledgeable people don't need to label themselves as such. Ego is clever. It knows how to disguise itself. Sometimes it hides behind sharing, but underneath, it's craving praise, recognition, superiority. But the need to prove you're smart often reveals the opposite, a quiet belief that you're not. Genuine wisdom doesn't seek approval. It doesn't dominate the room. It listens more than it speaks. It doesn't aim to impress. It aims to understand. Here's what you can do instead. Shift your focus from impressing to connecting. Don't tell people what you know. Ask them what they think. Instead of jumping into every conversation, give space. Let your knowledge speak when it's truly needed, and when it does, let it come with humility, not performance. Because the truth is, no one remembers all the facts you shared. They remember how they felt around you. And if you make them feel small, they'll leave. But if you make them feel seen, they'll remember you for a long time. And you don't need to say much to do that. Sometimes, silence is the most intelligent thing you can offer. So remember, sharing knowledge is easy. Knowing when to share, that's maturity. You don't always need to be seen as the smartest person in the room, but you can always choose to be the most thoughtful. Because at the end of the day, it's not what you know that defines you. It's how and why you choose to use it. 2. Don't dismiss other people's opinions too quickly. You don't have to agree with everyone, but you should learn how to listen to them. In every conversation, you have 2 choices. You can listen to understand, or you can wait to respond. If every differing opinion feels like a personal threat, that's not intelligence talking. That's ego, flinching in disguise. The truth is, smart people don't rush to reject what they don't fully understand. They don't need to win every argument. They don't crave being right at the cost of connection. They know that wisdom isn't measured by how fast you speak, but by how still you can be when facing a viewpoint that challenges yours. Epictetus once said, "You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion." We weren't built to talk endlessly. We were designed to reflect, to question, to adjust. And doing that requires humility. Humility begins the moment you stop interrupting, even when you think you're right. Why do we reject ideas so quickly? Usually, it's fear. When someone says something that doesn't align with how we think, it threatens our identity. And instead of leaning in, we armor up. We interrupt. We push back. We build a wall of certainty, even if we're not all that certain. Smart people don't need that wall. They're confident enough to pause, to hold space, to ask clarifying questions instead of launching counterattacks. They know that silence isn't weakness, it's clarity gathering strength, because most situations don't need someone to win the discussion. They need someone calm enough not to escalate it. So what can you do instead? When someone disagrees with you, don't defend. Ask, "Can you say more about that?" Listen with curiosity, not preparation. Respond from reflection, not reaction. If you still disagree, fine. Say it with respect, not resistance. Because when you treat others with dignity, even in disagreement, you give them something rare: recognition. Not because they're right, but because they're human. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "True strength isn't in striking hard, it's in staying still." Wisdom doesn't live in the loudest voice, it lives in the calmest one. If you want to be heard, start by listening first. Not just to words, but to the fear, the story, the human behind them. Because words have power, but listening has presence, and presence is what changes relationships and lives. In the end, remember, you don't have to be right all the time. You just have to be open enough to learn something you didn't know before, and sometimes that learning comes from the last place you expected. 3. Refrain from complaining without purpose. Everyone vents. Everyone struggles. Life is hard and full of friction. But there's a clear difference between expressing discomfort to grow and complaining just to make noise in the air around you. You can feel the difference. One kind of expression pulls people closer. It invites connection, clarity, maybe even laughter. The other kind of complaining repels. It drains the room. It demands energy without offering insight or a solution. It sounds like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "Nothing ever goes my way." And at some point, the room stops responding, not because they don't care, but because they've heard it all before. The Stoics warned about this, not because they were cold, but because they understood the hidden cost of repetitive negativity. Complaining in excess doesn't solve anything. It cements the belief that you're powerless. It teaches your brain to focus on what's wrong until that becomes all you can see. Over time, this shapes your identity. You don't just experience problems, you become someone who expects them. Someone who lives in the storm even when the sky is clear. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that external events do not disturb us. What disturbs us is our judgment about those events. Complaining often begins when we mislabel inconvenience as injustice, when we mistake discomfort for doom. But discomfort isn't doom, It's data. It's telling you something is out of alignment. And once you see that, you have two choices: take action or let it go. Anything else is noise. The danger of constant complaining is not just that it's tiring to listen to, it's that it keeps you stuck. It creates a loop where problems feel permanent and solutions feel impossible. You start to bond with people not through shared vision, but shared bitterness. You mistake validation for progress, and you trade your power for pity. So what should you do instead? First, pause. When you feel the urge to complain, check in with yourself. Ask, what do I need right now? If the answer is clarity, journal. If it's comfort, call someone who truly listens. If it's a change, take a small step in that direction. But don't offload your frustration just to relieve pressure. That's not release, that's projection. Second, learn to complain upward. That means if you must voice a problem, do it to someone who can help or who is willing to hold the space for reflection. Don't make every conversation a dumping ground. Your words are energy. Spin them like they cost something, because they do. Lastly, challenge the reflex. Most of us don't even notice how often we complain. It slips into our tone, our posture, our small talk. But what if for one day, you caught every complaint before it left your mouth? What if you turned "this traffic is ridiculous" into "I get extra time to think today," or "I hate my job" into "this is a sign I'm ready for more"? This isn't toxic positivity. It's a cognitive discipline. It's choosing a perspective instead of programming. The truth is, some days will suck. You will hurt. You will be disappointed. You will want to scream into a pillow. That's human. But your pain deserves more than just repetition. It deserves transformation. And that starts with how you speak about it. Words shape experience. They are not neutral. They influence your emotional state, your memory, and even your relationships. When you complain, you're not just sharing information, you're reinforcing identity. So ask yourself, is this the kind of person I want to become? You are allowed to feel frustrated, but you are not required to narrate that frustration into every corner of your life. You are allowed to struggle, but you are not obligated to perform your struggle like a play on loop. Let it breathe, let it speak, then let it move. In the end, life rarely gets easier, but you can get lighter. And that begins the moment you stop adding weight to your own words. 4. Don't make empty promises. There's a quiet power in doing exactly what you said you would do. No excuses, no over-explaining, no forgetting, just a clear promise followed by deliberate action. And there's a slow erosion of trust that happens when we speak more than we follow through. At first, people might give you the benefit of the doubt. They assume you're just busy or distracted. But over time, words without action begin to ring hollow. Promises become background noise. Your credibility weakens. And the damage doesn't just affect how others see you, it rewires how you see yourself. The Stoics believe that character is built in private. It's not shaped by what you claim, but by what you carry through, even when no one is watching. Saying less and doing more wasn't a strategy. It was a standard. Making empty promises often doesn't feel wrong in the moment. We say yes to avoid awkwardness. We commit because we feel inspired. Or we overpromise because we want to be liked. But when the intention fades and the action doesn't come, the gap between what we say and what we do starts to feel like a lie, even if it wasn't meant to be one. Every time you make a promise, you create an expectation. For others, but also yourself. If you break that expectation enough times, you stop believing in your own words. And when that happens, motivation collapses. You stop taking yourself seriously. And if you don't take yourself seriously, no one else will either. This doesn't mean you should never say yes. It means you should say it more slowly. It means your words should weigh something before they leave your mouth. Don't say maybe when you mean no. Don't say yes just to postpone discomfort. Say less, but mean more. There's strength in restraint. Every unkept promise chips away at your integrity. But every kept promise, no matter how small, strengthens your identity. It builds confidence quietly, like stacking bricks into a foundation no one sees but everyone stands on. Start paying attention to your language. Do you speak with certainty but follow through with hesitation? Do you say, "We should hang out," when you know you won't make the effort? Do you commit to things emotionally but not practically? Replace vague language with clarity. Instead of "I'll try," say "I'll decide by Friday." Instead of "Let's catch up sometime," say "I'm free next Tuesday at 4. Let your words become agreements, not fillers. And if you're unsure, say that. It's better to be honest in hesitation than dishonest in enthusiasm. The Stoics also understood that promises made to others matter, but the ones made to yourself matter more. When you tell yourself you'll get up earlier, eat better, finish that project, and then break those promises, you erode the most important kind of trust, self-trust. And without self-trust, discipline becomes punishment, not power. To rebuild that trust, start small. Keep tiny promises. Drink the water you said you'd drink. Write the paragraph you plan to write. Return the call you meant to return. Not to check a box, but to remind your mind that when you say something, you mean it. That your words are safe to believe. Because words are not cheap. They are blueprints for action. And when your actions match your words, you become someone others respect, and you respect yourself, not because you're flawless, but because you're honest. And that kind of honesty is rare, powerful, and deeply grounding. So next time you feel the urge to say yes without thinking, pause. Ask yourself if you're willing to carry what you're about to commit to. Ask if your future self would thank you for it. And if the answer is no, be brave enough to say so now. In a noisy world, your integrity is your volume. Speak less. Promise carefully. Deliver consistently. That's what builds trust. That's what builds character. That's what lasts. 5. Don't deny your mistakes. There's something strangely powerful about the words, "I was wrong." Not dramatic, not shame-filled, just honest. In a world that often confuses confidence with perfection, it can feel dangerous to admit failure. Like owning your mistake will erase your credibility or make you appear weak. But the opposite is true. The person who takes full responsibility, calmly and directly, immediately becomes someone others trust more. Because accountability isn't weakness, it's leadership. It shows strength, maturity, and a grounded sense of self. The Stoics believe that failure is not a moral failure, it's data, it's feedback from reality. When you make a mistake, the world is giving you information. It's not personal, it's practical. But when you deny that mistake or shift the blame, you reject the very information that could help you grow. You choose comfort over clarity, and in doing so, you choose to stay stuck. We all make mistakes. That part is inevitable. The difference lies in how we meet them. Some people hide, some justify, some pretend it never happened. But intelligent people pause, they observe, they own, and they ask, what does this teach me about who I am and what I need to do next? Owning your mistake doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means keeping your identity separate from your error. You are not your misstep, but you are responsible for how you respond to it. Every time you deny your mistake, you train your brain to value image over integrity, and over time, that becomes a habit. You begin to edit yourself in real time. You say what sounds good instead of what's true. You protect your ego at the cost of your growth, and eventually you stop learning. But when you practice accountability, something shifts. You stop fearing mistakes and start using them. You become the kind of person who can fall, adjust, and rise again with more clarity than before. Not because you're perfect, but because you're honest. So what does that look like in action? It looks like saying, that was my fault, and I'm gonna fix it. It looks like sending the follow-up email to clarify your error. It looks like apologizing with sincerity, not just to check a box, but to take real responsibility. And most importantly, it looks like changing the behavior so it doesn't become a pattern. There's dignity in that, there's trust, and there's freedom. Because when you stop defending a false version of yourself, you create space for the real version to grow. You don't waste energy covering tracks or managing perceptions. You focus that energy on getting better. You stop being afraid of being wrong because you know it's part of becoming right. One of the most respected traits in any relationship, personal or professional, is the ability to say, I missed that, or I misunderstood, or simply, I didn't get it right. These words don't make people think less of you. They make people think more of you because they see you as real, as grounded, as someone they can rely on. Not to be perfect, but to be honest. And in the end, that's what matters most. Not being flawless, but being trustworthy. Not avoiding all errors, but building the kind of character that knows what to do when they happen. So stop protecting your mistakes with silence. Name them. Learn from them. And then move forward with more wisdom than you had before. Because progress doesn't come from pretending. It comes from practice. And every honest mistake you face is another step toward the person you're trying to become. 6. Don't overshare your future plans. There's a quiet satisfaction in building something before announcing it. We live in a culture that encourages broadcasting every goal, every dream, every intention. As soon as we think of doing something meaningful, we feel the urge to post it, share it, and talk about it. We imagine the approval we'll get, the excitement, the external validation, and for a moment, it feels like we've already made progress. But we haven't. We've just spoken, not built, not moved, not earned. The Stoics would caution against this. They believed in modesty not because silence is noble, but because it protects the most sacred part of the process, the doing. When you overshare your plans, you create pressure to perform, often before you're ready. You also give away a piece of your momentum. Talking tricks your brain into feeling like you've already accomplished something, when in reality, nothing has changed. Psychologically, it creates a premature sense of reward. You get the praise without the progress. And over time, that praise becomes addictive. You begin chasing the performance of ambition instead of the quiet work that makes it real. There is nothing wrong with dreaming big, you should. But let the dream breathe inside you before you hand it to the world. Let it grow strong in silence. Let it fail in private. Give yourself the room to stumble without an audience. Oversharing plans can also backfire in unexpected ways. People may question you, doubt you, or challenge you before you've had the chance to even try. That external noise can shake your confidence. And if you're not careful, you start shaping your dreams to fit their approval instead of your truth. So what's the alternative? It's simple. Move quietly. Share results, not promises. Let your actions speak so clearly that people ask what you're working on because they can see the shift in you. Build without broadcasting. Progress without applause. There's a line often attributed to Epictetus that says, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." The same applies here. Don't explain your plans, execute them. Don't tell people what you're going to do. Let them notice what you've already done. When the time is right, share selectively. Share with people who support your process, not just your outcome. People who will hold space for your vision without needing to measure or monetize it. People who don't need the performance, just the truth. This doesn't mean you hide your goals out of fear. It means you protect them out of respect. Not all ideas are ready for exposure. Some are still forming, still tender, still too honest for the internet or a coffee table conversation. So hold them close. Water them quietly. Give them time to root before you try to bloom. Let your life grow silently enough that you surprise even yourself. Because the strongest dreams are not the ones we talk about the most. They are the ones we live into, little by little, until one day they speak for themselves. And when they do, they won't need an announcement. They will be obvious, undeniable, and yours. The quiet power of self-mastery. The most intelligent people are rarely the loudest in the room. They're not the ones constantly explaining their greatness, defending their mistakes, or broadcasting their every intention. They speak with care. They listen with presence. And most importantly, they choose their words based on principle, not pressure. This isn't about saying less to appear mysterious. It's about understanding that words carry weight. And when used carelessly, they can build walls instead of bridges. They can create distance where you meant to create a connection. The 6 things we've explored are not just communication tips. They are indicators of self-awareness. They reflect the difference between reacting and responding, between ego and clarity. Every word you choose reveals the level of discipline you bring to your inner world. It is easy to speak impulsively. It takes almost no effort to interrupt, to defend, to perform. But to pause, to reflect, to speak with calm intention is a kind of strength that does not need to shout. It's a strength that speaks for itself. The Stoics didn't seek power in titles or noise. They found it in restraint, in control of one's impulses, in the ability to remain grounded while the world spins loudly around them. That is the kind of intelligence that endures. So if you want your words to matter, let them be rooted in truth. If you want to lead, begin by listening. And if you want to be remembered for your mind, master the way you speak before you try to convince others how smart you are. In the end, it is not how much you know that defines your wisdom. It is how gracefully you carry what you know. And that kind of grace does not demand attention. It earns it.